I spent the majority of my adult life just waiting around to die. Well, things have changed. Let's walk and talk. I'm currently house and pet sitting for my sister as a favor, and I'm using this time to film as much content as I can while I'm tied down. I am going to have to walk them separate because this boy right here is a psychopath. You want to go for a walk? Yes, you do.
Come here, bud. Buddy, bud.
You want? Oh my gosh, he did so much better than I thought he would. He sniffed and peed on about 100 things, so he's a happy boy. He got to pee. Look at him. Time to switch. Oh my gosh, he's so excited. Are you so excited? Tucker's kind of smart. I think he knows what's up. Rocky was kind of just like, brr. Let's go. I think he's more excited than Rocky was. All right. Just got to get the camera and then we can go. I know I'm making you so crazy right now. I'm so sorry. It's like, well, are we going or not? First victim. For this video, we're going to have to start with some backstory. Let me introduce myself as well. My name is Jason. I've been a full-time nomad for 1.5 years now, on and off for a little over 2 years. I just got tired of living the life everybody told me I needed to live and decided to figure out my own way. And that's what we're trying to figure out right now. Maybe you can get something out of this because this isn't just something that only I can do. Anybody can do this. As long as you're willing to give up a few things, some personal space and some personal belongings, you can make it work. This all started for me though, I think, with my upbringing. I didn't really have anybody in my life that had any emotional intelligence, and nobody'd ever teach me how to act, how to process emotions. And I kind of just grew up to be someone who got triggered easily and didn't know how to deal with anger and judgment and all that stuff. And it really turned me into just a miserable person, to be honest. I was taught that men locked their feelings away and that was it. That's just how life worked. And most people that do that turn into terrible people, including me. You know, honestly, it may work for some people that have a very inactive mind and can literally lock things away. But for somebody with an active mind, it is damn near impossible to do that. The things I needed to lock away, I just constantly replayed over and over in my head, and it drove me insane. I was always stuck in a constant, never-ending cycle of either being worried about the past or being anxious about the future. When you're constantly consumed by negative thoughts, there is nothing else. Perception is everything. Fast forwarding a little bit to my adolescent life. I developed an insane dopamine addiction. Couldn't told you at the time that that's what it was, but looking back on it and knowing how I am now, that's really what it is. I needed constant stimulation to feel normal. Whenever I didn't have stimulation, my brain just started spiraling into the negativity. I discovered video games, became insanely addicted to them because it was constant stimulation, and it felt like for the first time in my life that I was at peace with something. It was an escape from the reality that I built for myself that I didn't like. I started sleeping on a 35 to 45 hour sleep schedule for years on end. So basically I would stay up for about 20, 30 hours straight, and then I would shut down for like 10 to 15. And my body just kind of got on a cycle like that. And it made life impossible. It got to a point where my closest family and friends were too scared to even ask me to do anything because I would explode at the smallest ask. And it was just not a good way to live. At the time, I had convinced myself that that's what I wanted, though. Man, I get a weird feeling when I think about that. I don't know. I just got to a point where I was just judging everyone immediately for no reason. I'm kind of ashamed of it, but the only thing I can do, see, that kind of thinking right there, though, is bad. If that's something you stew on constantly, you just have to let it go, man, and just promise yourself that you won't do it going forward, and that's all you can do. Just quit worrying about the bullshit is really what it comes down to. In 2021, at the height of COVID, I ran face first into a wall. Can we say midlife crisis? Honestly, though, I absolutely hate that term, because if you're like me, it wasn't a crisis, it was an awakening. And around this time, my current living situation was coming to an end. I probably had more choices, but I gave myself 3 choices. Choice number 1, move in with my mom at 40. Looking back, this was a lifelong prison sentence, and I'm so glad I didn't make that choice, but it was definitely the most comfortable choice and the one I wanted to make the most. It would allow me to continue to live the life that I have been of irresponsibility and just not caring about anything. Choice number 2, get an apartment and a W-2 job. Go work at Lowe's and work 40 hours a week at a job I hate for the rest of my life until I die of a heart attack at 70. That doesn't seem like a good choice to me either, but that's the choice that most people make. Number 3, actually take a risk and try car life. At this point, I had been researching it for a couple months, and it was actually exciting to me, and that felt weird because nothing was exciting to me. This is when the shift happened. This is really the point I can look back and say, I made the right choice, and I'm so glad I did. I actually started to believe that I could do it for the first time in my life. I don't think I've ever believed I could do anything. Like, it's kind of sad to say, but it's very true. I already had all the traits I needed to do this. I was already a minimalist. I was already fine with confined spaces. There was one point in my life where I lived with my mom and grandmother in Anaheim for I don't know, like a year or something. And my room was a closet. It was a walk-in closet. It was enough room for a bed and a desk, and that's it. And the third most important trait is being okay with being alone for long periods of time. And I'm fine with that too, at least for now. I started to believe that car life was possible. Up until this point, I thought the only way to travel full time was to like get an RV. And that was out of the question for me because I didn't have that type of cash flow at the time. Van life and car life isn't really a big thing in Kentucky. If you're in like Oregon or something and you drive around Northern California, like every other house has a Sprinter van in the parking lot, but you don't see those in Kentucky. People just don't do that. There is some there, but it's very spread out. It's not concentrated, so it just didn't seem possible. I think he's getting tired. Let's make our way back, buddy. His energy is so down. At the end of 2023, I made a decision. I was doing car life. I had never really bought a car before, and at that point I was still like an anxious mess. So I just decided to finance from Carvana because it was easier. The thought of going to like a dealer and dealing with that just kind of, now it wouldn't really affect me, but back then it was just, I'm not going to do that. So I had a Camry at the time. I traded that in on the Prius. I spent a few weeks ordering the things I needed and building out what little I built, setting up the car, taking the seats out, getting the logistics down, all that good stuff. Trying to plan too much. Back then I thought, I got to plan everything. That's not the case. It's actually way more enjoyable to plan as little as you can. I finally found the car I wanted. I didn't have to put any money down. I had a 5-year payment plan of $178 a month, which to me was very affordable. The downside, the interest rate was like 11 or 12%, which is crazy for a car, but that's what you get for convenience. I decided to just do it and use the money I save while living in the Prius to pay it off much faster and save myself thousands in interest, which is what I did. I paid off the full loan in about 18 months. And even then, I spent like a year making minimum payments just to get caught up and build an emergency fund. And the first year, I just spent a lot of time traveling and not working. So I used having a 60 to 70% savings rate just to knock it out fast. And that's what you have to do when you do this lifestyle. You have to take advantage of your advantages rather than just hopping in the car and doing nothing. Once I got everything ready to go, my first trip was terrible. It was a weekend trip to St. Louis just to test out car life. The first night I got 0 hours of sleep. I pulled in a Planet Fitness in Western Kentucky somewhere and laid there and stared at my ceiling for about 6 hours. The cool thing is though, I set my expectations that way, so it wasn't a bad thing. And it can only go up from there, right? At this point, I feel like every day gets easier for me. There are some bad days, but there are more good than bad. And that brings us to today, where I've built myself an awesome, balanced life of structure and freedom, because my brain needs both. I'm starting to actually feel creative for the first time in my life, and that's exciting. I'm in constant search of that peace you feel when you're a child, that most adults lose. That's something I also feel like I'm getting closer to every day. Man, it is hot out there.
I think we got a thirsty boy. Come on. Let's go see your brother.
He came in here and headed right for the bowl of water. Not surprising. This channel's really taken off a lot faster than I ever thought it would. I mainly started it for a couple reasons. One reason was just to do something that scared me and that I didn't want to do. Get better at public speaking and talking to a camera and all that good stuff. And the other reason was I have somebody in my life that is at the point right now that I used to be 10 or so years ago. And I'm not sure how to help him. I don't know what I needed to hear then. I know what worked for me when I was ready, but I don't know what works when you're not ready to hear it. Because honestly, all the stuff I'm saying now, if I was in my mindset 10 years ago, which is the mindset he's in, I would have thought I was full of shit. And I'm hoping that if I do this more and get better at it and learn more, that maybe I will one day figure out what he needs to hear. I don't know. I got to keep trying though. But hopefully, maybe some of you guys out there are ready. You're at the point and you're ready to hear this stuff. And maybe this video will help. There's also a playlist I've been putting together. I'll throw it up here on the screen that is just kind of a utility list. It's answering all the questions that I had before I started. And that's kind of where the direction I want to take the channel, at least for now. I want to help me from 3 years ago. And that's my goal right now. So I appreciate all you guys hanging out.